Ready? Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda and Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda and Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda and Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda and Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda and Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Gaur Premanande Hari Gaur. So I feel very fortunate to be able to speak to you tonight on the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the glories of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, I forgot, there were several that have been sponsored. How many? I think it's 3. 3 of these have been sponsored. And so Dvijamani Prabhu will be out in the lobby there to provide you to them for a nominal fee, not the usual price. So if you're really interested, you can get one tonight. Okay. Oh boy. Hare Krishna. So, Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So, there's so much to say about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his appearance. First, I'd like to offer my humble obeisances unto dearly departed Sri Badrinarayan Swami, who was such a staunch devotee of Lord Chaitanya, following Srila Prabhupada. I've calculated, I think, for 56 plus years. He joined in 1969. And when I came here in 89, he was here as the temple president. And then in 87, actually, he had become the GBC. He was also with GBC. And then so he started the GBC, temple president. He raised 2 wonderful children in Krishna consciousness. And he saw ISKCON through so many difficulties. You know, I won't go through the details, but he was a real fighter for Srila Prabhupada's movement. And we feel a great loss, of course, that he's gone. But I'm thankful that he was there in Vrindavan, and that I think he's there with Krishna and Prabhupada right now. So, and we will have a memorial, I think it's scheduled on the 15th, 2 Sundays from now. So, and we'll let you know the exact timing. So, what to say about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? I want to first begin. I was thinking, this whole movement rests on 2 kind of foundational principles, foundational understandings. After we understand, you know, the basics that we're not this body, but that we're spirit, we're matter, not matter, but spirit. So, who is God? You know, and that we are taught, and it's proved conclusively in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna is God. In all kinds of ways that, of course, we can't even imagine, but the basic ways that he's the controller of everything, he's the source of everything, the cause of all causes, all of that. Krishna is God. And the second basic principle is that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. And those 2 principles are explored and explained beautifully in Bhagavad Gita, expanded in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and especially, of course, the identity and activities and pastimes and glories of Lord Chaitanya are explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I'd like to kind of explore a few verses at the beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's called the Mangalacharana. Every main work of Vedic literature has verses at the beginning that give the subject of the work that's going to be, give blessings, give prayers, all these kinds of things, very important, and tell you so much more information. So right here in the third verse of the Yadi Lila, the identity of Lord Chaitanya is given in a very substantial verse. And this is showing that he is indeed the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'm just going to give you the Sanskrit because time is limited here. What the English. What the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body. And the Lord, known as the Supersoul, is but his localized plenary portion. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, full with 6 opulences. He is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him. So this verse, right at the beginning of CC, it identifies Lord Chaitanya as indeed the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what about him? Then it gives a blessing verse describing his unique quality as the most munificent avatar. Now, some of you, many of you may be familiar with this verse, Namo Mahabodhanyaya. How many know that verse? At least, maybe not by heart, but you're familiar with it. Okay. So this is a verse spoken by Rupa Goswami. When he first met Lord Chaitanya went to see Rupa and Sanatana Goswami in Ramkeli. I think it's in Bengal. And at that time, they were the left and the right hand of the government, of the Nawab Hussain Shah. I think it's Sanatana Goswami was the prime minister and Rupa Goswami was the finance minister. So they had been born in great Brahmin families. You know, they were Saraswat Brahmin families, very learned, but they had been sort of, drafted into the. So they lost their position in the Hindu community like that. But when Lord Chaitanya came there, Rupa Goswami, he recognized, no, this is Krishna himself. So he offered this verse. You see, he composed a verse. I don't know if he composed it in a moment, but he offered his obeisances in that verse. So what it means is, I offer my obeisances, Namo Mahabodhanyaya, to the most munificent avatar of Krishna. Now, why is Krishna Prema Padayate? Because he's giving the most valuable thing in existence, pure love for Krishna. Much more valuable than any amount of money or going to Indraloka or anything like that. Krishna Premadaya, Krishnaya, he's offering unto Krishna. So this is Krishna himself. Krishna Chaitanya Namane, under the name, but he has the name of Krishna Chaitanya. Krishna Chaitanya Namane, Gaura Trijena Mahais, this golden complexion, I offer my obeisances to them. Very important verse. So, what Lord Chaitanya, Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya for two reasons. He had an external reason and he had an internal reason. So the next verse in these, this is verse number 4 of the 14 in the beginning here. That's just the first line. And this tells, describes the treasure that he's giving, and it's a blessing verse. He says, may he be ever manifest in your hearts. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Shachi Devi, she was Lord Chaitanya's mother in his Leela, may he be transcendentally situated in the innermost chambers of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. And of course, this introduces the idea of Srimati Radharani, that he had the complexion of Srimati Radharani and the mood of Srimati Radharani. And that's explained. So this is the external reason. He came to give that. This is the Sankirtan movement. He's giving love of Krishna. What does that mean? It's in this, especially this mood of love of Radharani for Krishna, but also the other, Sakya Rasa and the other there is also available. So then, 2 verses later, it gives the internal reason. And this Prabhupada explains, I think it's recounted here in the CC also, that Krishna was in, Goloka Vrindavan, and he was in one of his palaces there, and he saw in a very shiny surface, whether it was a pillar or the floor, his own reflection. You see? He says, oh, the beauty of that. This is amazing, you know. I wish I could understand the depths of this beauty from Srimati Radharani's point of view. Because really, through the lens of her unlimited love, she appreciates his beauty and other qualities more than anything else. So, that's described in this verse. This verse 6 of the first 6. So this I'll just read the translation here because that's part of the reason, but it goes on. So desiring to understand the glory of Srimati Radharani's love for him, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone relishes or uniquely relishes through her love for him, and the happiness she feels when she realizes the sweetness of his love for her, the Supreme Lord Hari, richly endowed with her emotions, appeared from the womb of Srimati Sachi Devi as the moon appeared from the ocean. This is a pastime of churning the ocean of milk, you know, and the moon comes up. That's one of the things. So this is the internal reason. And we find as the Chaitanya Charitamrita unfolds that both of these reasons are explored in his activities. So much as during his time growing up, the wonderful pastimes, you know, he was Nimai Pandit. And eventually he was married, you know, he got married to Lakshmi Priya, but he would have kirtan. He started the kirtan movement in the house of Srivas Thakur. I remember when I first got to go to Mayapur in 1975, and just down the road from our property, you find Srivas Thakur's, Srivas Angan, they call it, his place, you know. Nice little, it had a wall, you know, it was kind of, you could, and so he would have these kirtans, he would have these incredible kirtans there, but they were private. It wasn't public yet, you know. And so there was this Brahman who came, he wanted to go inside to see Lord Chaitanya's dancing, and he wouldn't let him. So he cursed Lord Chaitanya. He said, "Oh, I curse you not to have any material opulence." And so he says, "Thank you very much," you know. He was already planning to take sannyas. So, so that was the beginning. But then what happened was that there were complaints among some of the Orthodox Hindus, you know, that they thought he was, you know, polluting things and stuff. So they complained to the government, which is Muslim. So they went and they suppressed the kirtan. They came and they broke him a Dunga drum, you know, famously. So Lord Chaitanya heard about it, said, "Okay, we'll show them, you know. Tonight, everybody," and there were literally thousands, 100,000 of the local inhabitants, "everyone get a torch. We're going to have a big Harinam tonight, and we're going to go to the Qazi's house, and we'll have a little discussion with him," you know. So he started leading, and you can imagine, you know, and Lord Chaitanya's dancing and chanting, everyone's in total ecstasy. So the Qazi, he heard it and said, "Okay, go out, you know." He sent his soldiers out. He had a small group, I don't know, 15 and 20, you know. So they went out there, and of course the Muslims, they had big beards and everything, you know. And so they went out and they said, "You know, these people are not going to listen to us." They were completely entranced, and they were afraid. They got the beards, so they tried to hide their beards because they thought they would get. So that didn't work. So they went to his house, to the Qazi's house, and some of his Lord Chaitanya's followers, they started throwing things and wrecking the house. You know, he said, "No, I want to talk to him first." You know, so the Qazi was up there in his room. He said, "Okay," you know. And he found out that he had some relationship with him, so he's trying to, you know, by the third cousin or something. So he's talking to him, and the upshot of that was that the Qazi declared, "Okay, we're not going to ever, I and all of my descendants, we're never going to suppress the kirtan again," you know. And so in Navadvip. So I remember when I first went to Mayapur, we had a nice kirtan in downtown Navadvip, you know. And we learned this pastime that, you know, we can go for, you know, there's no problem with kirtan here. So that was, you know, and he's following that external reason for spreading the Sankirtan movement. This is the whole thing, is that why the chanting of Hare Krishna? Because in this age, he based it on Shastra. Later on, when he took sannyas, he would quote the verse that Ishvara Puri told him, "Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalo nastyeva, nastyeva, nastyeva gatadanyata." I see a lot of you know that verse. Yeah. It's easy to memorize that one. So I put it into a little poem. If you want to achieve the supreme goal of life in this age, when dissension and chaos abound, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way that can never be found but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name with a stout-hearted vow, and to pray, "O Lord Krishna, O friend of the poor, let my head ever unto your lotus feet bow." I kind of filled out the poem with a little extra. So, Harinama, Harinama. So he was doing that, and this is all fulfilling that external reason. He wanted to spread love of God in a way that the Kali Yugites could actually take it, you see. And so it's like, no hard and fast rules. Anyone can chant, come on. You know, it doesn't matter, man, woman, old, young, you know, Vedic scholar or just a Chandala. Come on and join, you know. So today that we also do that. And that's why I'm sitting here. I'm anything but a, you know, anyway, I don't want to go into my background. But but that's the wonderful thing, that it's heart to heart, it's soul to soul, and every one of us is a spirit soul, you know, every human being, and also even the fish and the birds and the animals and the insects. That's the first lesson. So this is the beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then it goes on, and you know, the 14 verses describes the glories of Lord Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, the Panchatattva, and it explores all those. And it's known as the crown jewel of all of the biographies of Lord Chaitanya. Sitting right here, 9 volumes. Used to be 17. We condensed it to 9. And it is a treasure. And I wanted to just read one more verse before we explore some other things. And this is in the Adi Lila also, the 2nd chapter, 2nd verse. This is one of my favorite verses. I memorized it when I first read it many years ago. I'll just read the English. O my most merciful Lord Chaitanya, may the nectarian Ganges waters of your transcendental activities flow over the surface of my desert-like tongue. Beautifying these waters are the lotus flowers of singing, dancing, and loud chanting of Krishna's holy name, which are the pleasure abodes of unalloyed devotees. These devotees are like swans, ducks, and bees, and the rivers flowing produces a melodious sound that gladdens their ears. Now, Prabhupada told us that the Chaitanya Charitamrita was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's favorite book. And Prabhupada took solace of it on that long trip, you know, that in the Jaladuta, very difficult trip. He would read the Chaitanya Charitamrita for inspiration, you know. So this is, it's a beautiful purport, which I won't get into the detail. The time is short. But we are, you know, very, very fortunate to have been exposed to the Lord Chaitanya's movement, to his teachings, to the books that Srila Prabhupada wrote, on the basis of the famous prophecy that Lord Chaitanya gave, which is recorded in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, which is also a very important biography of Lord Chaitanya, these two, which is Priti Vidyachayati Nadaradi Gram Sarvata Pachar Horbe Moranam. He said, in every town and village throughout the world, my names will be chanted. You see? Now, I mean, my name means Krishna's name. It's, you know, Hare Krishna mantra. So Prabhupada understood that. Everyone in you know, Gaudiya Vaishnava understands that. And he had, to bolster that, his order from his spiritual master. You see? Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And that was that go to the West, preach in English, and spread the Lord Chaitanya's teaching throughout the world. In fact, when Prabhupada first met Bhaktisiddhanta, very famously, before he even got up from offering obeisance, he was saying, he was with a friend, you're educated young men, you should preach this around the world. And Prabhupada was arguing with him, no, we need independence first. He's wearing his khadi, right? He's a follower of Mahatma Gandhi. And but Bhakti said, no. This is so urgent, so important. It can't wait for anything like that, you know. So Prabhupada took it very seriously. And we should also take it seriously, because the more that we try to give this wonderful process of chanting Hare Krishna, which is so easy to do and free, and the process of Bhakti Yoga is given by Rupa Goswami. Prabhupada gave us Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, and all these books. The more that we'll feel the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, and we'll feel joy. And when it comes time for kirtan, we'll feel even more inspired than ever about that. I don't get to do so much outside kirtan anymore, but we had a nice one yesterday on the beach. And I was leading for a little while. I had to come back here to prepare another talk. I've been talking a lot lately. And so the people were responding very nicely. You know, some kids were dancing, you know, people, you know, were waving, and we gave them little pamphlets about Hare Krishna. It's a wonderful thing. And that is the real essence of Lord Chaitanya's movement. This chanting and dancing and spreading the message, and at the same time experiencing this flood of prema, of pure love for Krishna and, you know, for all the devotees of Krishna. Everything, it expands like that. So we're very fortunate to be, you know, part of that movement. And I wanted to share a verse for you that's not so famous. Many of you probably haven't heard it, but it's within this Chaitanya Charitamrita, especially the Adi Lila. There's there's one, you know, famous confrontation that Lord Chaitanya had with the Mayavadis in Banaras, led by Prakashananda Saraswati. So Lord Chaitanya went there after taking sannyas. He came to Banaras. He had some of his devotees there, and he was staying with them. And there's a major contingent of Mayavadis. Mayavadis are impersonalists. They're convinced that the ultimate truth is the impersonal Brahman, just the white light, you see. But it's but there's a verse where it said, Yen yeda bindaksha vimuktamaninas tvayasta bhavadavashuddha buddhaya. This is spoken by the demigods when they're hidden in the dungeon of Kamsa, and Devaki's waiting, you know, to give birth. So the demigods come hidden and they start offering prayers, and this is one of them. Prabhupada always quote. And what it says, what he's saying there, they're praying to Krishna, they're glorifying the devotees. Then they say, but there are others besides the devotees, oh Lotus-eye Lord, vimuktamaninas, who think that they're liberated. These are the impersonalists. They perform austerities and they come to the point of Brahman. You say, oh, this is wonderful. So here's the fate. Aruha kutrena parang padannata patanchado anadvida yushmarangriya. So some, a few, not all, but through severe austerities, try to imagine, okay, because we've all, anyone who's experienced in chanting a little bit or is a little serious, you can understand that the effect of the chanting is that you become more attracted to Krishna, and things that you were attracted to become less attractive. You know, you could have been into, you know, drinking, say, or drugs or whatever, you know. But if you get serious about Krishna consciousness, then that you get cured of that. Vishayavanivartante, param dushranavad, that you're seeing the Supreme or experiencing the presence of God in His holy name, and in so many other ways, to the deities, the prasadam, the devotees, the books. And so then you lose your taste for these lower things. So, but the Mayavadis don't have that. So severe austerities and force of will, they suppress the desires, and some of them, very few, are able to come up to Brahman, you know, come to the state of Brahman. I've made it. I'm in the Brahman now. And I compare it to the sensory deprivation chambers. Have you ever seen those? You heard about those? You know, they have the temperature just right. You lie in there, it's just, you know, warm. You say, now I can relax. But then the time comes, and I got to go back to work. You know, what time is it? You know, so you can only stay there so long. So similarly, the Brahmavadis, they're in the Brahmajyoti, but they get bored. There's nothing there because that's not our natural position. There's nobody there. There's no Krishna. There's no, you don't have a form. You don't have anything to do. All it is, you're free from birth, old age, disease, and death. But how much can that enliven you? You know, all right, I'm free from that. Now what? You know, so they come back down. Because they don't have any taste for serving the lotus feet of Krishna. You see? So now this is a verse describing the devotees who enjoy glorifying Lord Chaitanya and relishing his pastimes and chanting like that. So this is Adi Lila, chapter 2, verse 2. I won't give you the Sanskrit, it's a long verse. O my merciful Lord Chaitanya, and I want to read the short purport that Prabhupada gave us. O my merciful Lord Chaitanya, may the nectarian Ganges waters of your transcendental activities, pastimes, flow on the surface of my desert-like tongue. Beautifying these waters are the lotus flowers of singing, dancing, and loud chanting of Krishna's holy name, which are the pleasure abodes of unalloyed devotees. These devotees are like swans, ducks, and bees, and the rivers flowing produces a melodious sound that glads their ears. So this is when the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, when they really get into hearing and chanting Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavat, then it's just like floating in this river. So Prabhupada describes this. Our tongues, and don't forget, the process of devotional service begins with the tongue, right? Ata Shri Krishna Namadi, Nabave Grayam Indriyai, Sevan Mukhehi Jivado Swayam Eva Spuratyada. That with our present senses we cannot understand or perceive the form, qualities, pastimes of Krishna. But if we begin serving him with the tongue by chanting Hare Krishna, jivado, then eventually we become purified and he reveals himself progressively to us, depending on our purity. So Prabhupada says, our tongues are always engaged in vibrating useless sounds that do not help us realize transcendental peace. The tongue is like a desert, because the desert needs a constant supply of refreshing water to make it fertile and fruitful. Water is the substance most needed in the desert. The transient pleasure derived from mundane topics of art, culture, politics, sociology, dry philosophy, poetry, and so on, is like a mere drop of water, because although such topics have a qualitative feature of transcendental pleasure, they're saturated with the modes of material nature. How many of you know what the modes of material nature are? You've heard that? You know about something from reading the books? Yes. Goodness, passion, ignorance. Very prominent in this age, passion and ignorance. Therefore, neither collectively nor individually can they satisfy the vast requirements of the desert-like tongue. Despite crying in various conferences, therefore, the desert-like tongue continues to be parched. For this reason, people from all parts of the world must call for the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who are like swans swimming around the beautiful lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, or bees humming around his lotus feet in transcendental pleasure, searching for honey. The dryness of material happiness cannot be moistened by so-called philosophers who cry for Brahman, liberation, and similar dry speculative objects. The urge of the soul proper is different. The soul can be solaced only by the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his many bona fide devotees, who never leave the lotus feet of the Lord to become imitation Mahaprabhus, but all cling to his lotus feet like bees that never leave a honey-soaked lotus flower. So we want to become like those bees and, hovering around Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet. And that brings to mind another verse that you're probably not familiar with. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Now, when Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, he went to Jagannath Puri in the company of Nityananda Prabhu and others. Along the way, Nityananda Prabhu, Lord Chaitanya had a tridanda. He's a sannyasi. But Nityananda thinking, what does he need this tridanda? He broke it and he threw it into a river. So Lord Chaitanya came out, he took a bath in the river, said, where's my danda? So Nityananda confessed that I broke it. And so you don't need it. So Lord said, well, I'm not going to go with you anymore to Jagannath Puri. You go ahead, or I'll go ahead of you. So they said, you go ahead. So by that time they could see the chakra at the top of they were that close. And so he went ahead quickly. And he went into the temple, saw Lord Jagannath, and he immediately fainted in ecstasy because he saw it as Krishna. This is not from Krishna. This is my Krishna. So he's fainted in this ecstatic trance, and he was such a high ecstatic trance that the guards there were used to all kinds of people coming and faking ecstatic symptoms. So they got ready to throw him out, to pull him out and everything. But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya saw that, no, he's extraordinary. He was very tall and long, and he was very beautiful. And so he said, no, it looks like he might be in samadhi. So he checked the breathing, and he had a little cotton, and there was a little breath. So he said, he's in high samadhi. So he had him brought very carefully to his own house, you see. So meanwhile, after some time, Nityananda and the other devotees, they came and they said, was there some sannyasi? He said, yeah. And Sarvabhauma brought him to his house. So they went there. And they started chanting in his ear, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And finally he came out of the trance, So anyway, Sarvabhauma, he was an impersonalist at that time. So he saw this beautiful sannyasi, So he wanted to make sure, he said, how is he going to keep a sannyas? He's so attractive. And so he said, I better teach him, the Vedanta Sutra, So Lord Chaitanya said, okay, let me hear. So for 7 days he heard him expound on Vedanta Sutra. But he didn't ask any questions. There's a nice painting, and Lord Chaitanya is looking like kind of bored, So finally, Sarvabhauma, are you understanding what I'm saying? You're not asking any questions. So I understand exactly what you're saying, but it's just like a cloud obscuring the real meaning of the sun of the Vedanta Sutra. So Sarvabhauma said, okay, well, what do you understand? So he started speaking of Vedanta Sutra and giving the real meaning, which is the Bhagavatam, basically, Bhakti. And Sarvabhauma was just blown away, and he was converted. So after he realized this is Krishna himself, and he became a great devotee just in that time, he composed, incredible, he was a great scholar, he composed 100 verses right out of his mind like that. They're called Shloka Shatakam, 100 wonderful verses, and they're available. I can send it to you, send me an email. So one of them really struck me, and I'll just share this with you, and you can see how beautiful it is. I don't know if anyone knows this verse. Hare Krishna Rama Nama Gana Dana Karanim Shoka Moha Loba Tapa Sava Vigna Nashinim Pada Padmalubda Bhakta Vrinda Bhakti Dahinim Gaura Mutta Masha Naumi Nama Sutta Dharinim. So this is what you can do in Sanskrit. It's so wonderful with it. So Hare, you can figure out what this first line means by just Hare Krishna Rama Nama. So the Hare Krishna mantra composed of his names. Gana is a song. Dana, gift. Karanim. He made a gift of the song of the Hare Krishna mantra, which he gave out freely to everyone. See? Now, but you have to accept that gift. So Hare Krishna Gana Karanim, Shoka Moha Loba Tapa Sava Vignanashinim. If you accept that gift, then you get free of all lamentation, all illusion, all greed, all of these qualities. In other words, you become purified. Okay, and then, as per this verse you just read, Pada Padmalubna Bhakta Vrindi Bhakti Dayanim. Those fortunate devotees of his who are very greedy for the nectar of his lotus feet, service to his lotus feet, he bestows the highest levels of prema bhakti. You see? So then the last verse says, Gaura Motam, this golden formed Lord, Gaura Motam Asha Naumi Nama Sutta Dharanim. I very enthusiastically and quickly, with great enthusiasm, offer humble obeisance to Lord Chaitanya, who is chanting japa in a secluded place. He also did that. Not on bead so much, but knotted string. You ever hear that? There's much coming. Uh-oh. Is that mine? No. Okay. It sounds familiar, that ring. Hare Krishna. Now Maharaj here, Bhakti Ryan Swami, he would say, you know, it has an off switch. You put on. Right? Wouldn't he say that? Okay. So anyway, this wonderful day is, you know, for meditating on Lord Chaitanya, glorifying him as we have, and you know, and of course a lot of kirtan and prasadam. I don't know if how many of you have been fasting, but this was the first serious fast I did, because I joined in March of 2073, and it was Gaura Purnima. That was the first festival we had. It's fasting all day. Okay, you know, but it's a wonderful experience. So then just a few more words. This Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a history to that, and I'd like to just recount a little of that. This is some of how did it become manifest, you know. So Srila Prabhupada, he came, and of course he wanted to print books, you know, and he knew the first book was Bhagavad Gita. That had to come out. But how to get it published? So it's kind of miraculous how the first Bhagavad Gita was published. Prabhupada would type, he was typing everything on his manual typewriter that he brought with him with the 2 fingers, you know. So he was doing that, and then Gargamuni, he was wandering around the Lower East Side, and he saw in a storefront a dictaphone, a dictating machine. I don't know if it was dictaphone is a brand name, maybe it was dictaphone. So he bought it, and he studied the manual, so he knew how to operate it, because he wanted to teach Prabhupada to use it. So he could then just speak, you know, it would speed things up, you see. So he showed the machine to Prabhupada. Prabhupada was, yeah, this is going to be good, you know. So he started showing him how to say, so I know how to work it. How did he know how to work it? Miraculously. Prabhupada was using that dictaphone. Yes, that's a fact. He did it in Lilamrita. So Prabhupada used the dictaphone, and he was dictating with all the purports and everything. But when it came time, you know, how to get it published, so the Macmillan published it. So Brahmananda was in charge of trying to get it published when the manuscript was done. So one of they had that record that they made, that famous record, the first record with Prabhupada chanting on it, and the address, you know. So Brahmananda was sending out to the different publishers in New York, to quite a few. I think he was sending the record, and he was seeing if they wanted to get it published. So he got a response from Macmillan Company. So he was going to go up there and start to speak to the guy and kind of get a relationship going. He said, well, okay, look, you go up there to meet the person, and you take the manuscript with you, you see. Brahmanan was doubtful, but he said, oh, I'll follow that instruction. So he went up there, and he found that the person who wrote him was not an editor or anything. It was just some clerk, basically, who had heard the record, got the record, and he was interested. So, okay, we'll see what happens. So he was explaining the book to this clerk, and in comes one of the main editors, and he overheard that he was talking about the Bhagavad Gita and said, oh yes, he turned and said, yes, we have a Bhagavad Gita. He said, oh, great, we've been looking for a Bhagavad Gita to fill out our New Age, library. So it was totally miraculous. Prabhupada could see that. So that was the first. It wasn't the unabridged that we have. This was the abridged, which maybe you haven't seen. It didn't have all the purports. It was only. They didn't want to do a 1,000-page book, which they wanted to do maybe 400 max. So that was the first Gita, but it was the Gita. It was Prabhupada's Gita, and it was also Bhagavad Gita as it is. Had wonderful introductions by Thomas Merton and Lisa Nevertov, all these famous people at the time. And I think Allen Ginsberg also wrote something. So that was, the Prabhupada had that. And he became very enlivened, and so to do the unabridged Gita, which eventually Macmillan also published. So, Prabhupada, he followed his spiritual master's instructions, and he wrote the books. And if you ever get money, print books. So he didn't have much money, but whatever money he had, he started printing the books, and they started being sold. And he was strict. Everyone had to go out on Harinam. When I joined in Brooklyn, 3 hours a day, everyone had to go out on Harinam. If you really want to see something far out, you get on YouTube and you search for Susskind, David Susskind show. It was popular in the 60s and 70s, 80s, maybe it's just 70s.
We're a little over time right now.
Oh, we're over time? Oh, we're supposed to end at 7:15? Oh boy, I'm sorry. I'm going over time. Anyway, I'll end with this. Look up, and if you just search that, David Susskind, Susskind, Hare Krishna. There was a show that he had. He invited all the devotees from Brooklyn Temple, and they must came from other ways, because Bhagavan was there and everything. And everybody is in their early 20s, And I saw that show. I was at my parents' house in black and white. I was amazed. Everybody looks so blissful and effulgent, and they're so articulate when they describe the philosophy. So it's very alive, and you see the movement that was really prospering at that time. This is the early 70s, and this is it's what it's all about. Okay, I'm sorry I forgot the schedule, but so we don't have time for any questions. But we'll have a beautiful feast, and also don't forget, how many is it? 3 sets will be available to take home. You go out into the patio, and not the patio, the lobby, and Vijamani there will be too. And for a voluntary donation, whatever you can afford, because they've been sponsored. So
thank you, Dravida Prabhu.
Okay, Haribol. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol.
As he mentioned, he's been doing a lot of speaking and a lot of kirtan leading while others have been out of town. So it's been challenging for him physically, though very sweet for everyone else. But thank you for speaking tonight also, Dravida Prabhu. Hare Krishna. And now